Hello, and welcome to the Healthcare Compliance Pros January 2017 webinar. My name is Derek Wayman, and I'll be moderating today's webinar. Today, we'll be presenting an overview of updates to the website and introducing a new refresher version of our HIPAA training. This presentation is being recorded. The recording will be published in our Insider newsletter next week and will also be available on your compliance website landing page underneath News and Events. At this time, I'd like to introduce the presenters for today's webinar, Michelle Lyman and Brian Roberts. Michelle is our operations manager. She serves on the front lines in supporting clients with website management and compliance basics. She's also involved with product and article development for HCP. Many of you have had the pleasure of working with Michelle. Brian is our Chief Operating Officer. He's the man behind the website and will be navigating us through all the new enhancements today. If you do have any questions come up during the webinar, please post them using the GoToWebinar dashboard so that we can address them during the presentation. Any questions that we are not able to address during the webinar will be followed up via email. I'll now turn the webinar over to Brian and Michelle for today's presentation. Michelle?
Thanks, Derek. You know, I have to admit we're pretty excited about this webinar. I know many of you have been waiting for the much anticipated shortened refresher courses, and as you can see, there are quite a few other major enhancements that we'll be covering today as well. So we're really excited to show you what we've done. I also wanted to mention that these updates are driven by clients just like you, people who have requested additional support for their programs. At the end of the webinar, you'll be able to participate in a survey, and the survey is where you'll be asked what you'd like to see in future development and for future trainings. So please make sure your voice is heard by participating in the survey. Also, before we get started, I'd like to remind you to use that GoToWebinar dashboard. You can type any questions that you have during the webinar into the dashboard, and we will try to answer your questions during the presentation. With that, I'll turn the webinar over to our expert.
Thanks, Michelle. Like Michelle said, we are very excited about this day. It's been a day we've been waiting for this day to come. Many of you have asked for and requested more engaging course functionality and have been longing for a condensed version of your compliance courses. Well, that day is finally here. The refresher courses not only are more engaging, but they're shorter. And they still help you meet the regulatory requirements to maintain a compliant organization. So with that, let's take a look. Now, right now, we're just logged in as an administrator. So many of you are familiar with this screen. You have your account level and your office level. We're going to start up at the account level, and you should be, you're all familiar with seeing your account modules. The first new enhancement we have here is we have a button up here that says View Settings. Now this is where you can control and manage whether or not you want to even have access to the refresher trainings. By default, effective actually yesterday afternoon, we've turned these on for the HIPAA privacy and security courses. So everybody by default has the refresher courses turned on. If for some reason you want your employees to still take the initial version or the regular version you've always been used to, you simply come into your account and you can hit this drop down and say default courses only, and then you just hit save. Otherwise, your accounts are already set up for your employees to start taking the refresher trainings. Now, one nice aspect of this is some technology we've developed, and this is why this has taken some time for us to get this instituted and get it heavily tested. Other websites out there, they just have a standard course, and you can take that course and you can cross your fingers and hope that they update it next year for you. That's what we've been trying to do year in and year out. Well, with the technology that you're going to see today, what we've done is we've taken that a step further and actually said, why don't you have an initial course that you want your employees to go through to cover all your policies and procedures, which the government requires you to do, but then in the following years, cover the aspects or the areas you know you need to focus on. And that's your new refresher course. It can be shorter, it can be more specific to what you want, and we're going to show you how you can even customize it to cover maybe some specific trouble areas that you're experiencing in your practice. So we're going to open up the HIPAA privacy course, And you'll see here now, you have, in the past, you just had an overview. You now have some different views. We can click this initial tab. This is going to show us what the course looks like for your employees that take it for the very first time. So you have that new hire. They're still going to get their policies and procedures. They're still going to get everything that you're required to give them training on as a new employee. You click initial, that shows you what they're going to see. But you now also have a refresher view. So if you click refresher, and if we actually, in this HIPAA privacy, let me show you, this HIPAA privacy course right now is about 69 slides. That's including the quizzes. If we look at the refresher view, we're going to become very happy because we see this is just a 27-slide course. So we've really condensed it. We're focusing on areas that our compliance experts have found that are areas the government really wants you to pay attention and focus on. And they're also areas that we get a lot of questions from our clients. We see breaches occur throughout the year, and so we try to cover these areas that we feel might be important. However, along with that, you can also add your own. So you can see here we have this custom refresher slide. You can still add new slides to your refresher course. So if there is something you just want to make sure is covered, you still can add to those refresher courses. So we're going to take a look at some of these enhancements that we have here. When I click on this custom slide here that I've added to the refresher course, you'll see you can still customize your own content, but we do have a new preview button. Now this preview button is new here, so you can actually see what it looks like for your employees. We do have this old preview tab. In the past, you know, you could just see this box and you could see what it looks like. The nice thing with this preview, this slide tab here, is it actually shows you what it looks like when your employees are taking a training. So when I click this, you'll see it actually opens up just like your course, and then it shows the content. Now, some of the most exciting features that we developed over 2016 is this new extended content. This extended content allows you to, if you noticed here in the preview mode, you can provide some information, and this is what we've done in the refresher course, but you can also expand that information on a different slide. So if somebody wants to read more, like we have here in this example, they can just click the read more button and they'll get some additional content. So this new extended content feature is a way for us to provide information that's educational and explanatory without forcing somebody to read paragraph upon paragraph upon paragraph of information on one slide. So it is truly voluntary, but it's a way for us to give additional explanation if we need to. I'm going to show you how you can do that on here as I go through all these new settings that we have available on the new slide editor. When we come over to settings, you'll see here if you ever do want to add extended content to a slide, you simply just change the slide to extended content. It's the same exact location where you could create your own quiz. Once you change that type to extended content, you'll see this new tab appear. This new tab is just like the content, except it's where you can add that text, and then you can also label the buttons. So if you noticed, if I come in here and I say, maybe I want to change this to say see policy, and if I save this, when I come over to the content now and preview it, I've just changed what the button says, so now it says see policy. So you can actually label the button that you want your employees to see, to click on, and then when they click that, they get the additional content. There's a go back that can go back to the previous content there. So that's the extended content. I don't want everyone to feel uncomfortable with all of this new technology on here. The big takeaway from this is if this is something that can help you with some of your own customization, please reach out to your client specialist. They'd be more than happy to cover this in more detail. Along with extended content, as we come down here, you'll notice that we now have new transitions. So if you're tired of just having the slide show click through and click through, you can have those slides be animated, slide in from the left, the right, the top, the bottom. You could have them fade. So right now we have it set to fade, and then you can go ahead and test that. You can also select new backgrounds. Now the nice thing with the backgrounds is what we've been wanting to do for a long time, and what we plan to do for all of our clients is we're going to work with the existing logos that you've uploaded for your account, and we're going to create unique backgrounds with your logo on them in the lower right corner. What that will do is you can actually say, I want this whole course to be branded with our logo. Down the road, if you want your own color styles, you want your own fonts, anything you want in the backgrounds, you can actually create and set your backgrounds for your courses, much like you can do in, say, PowerPoint, where you can change the style or the template on behind the text. So you can now upload your own backgrounds. You can also change the font. So you have some capability to change what the font looks like in the slide and also for the entire course. Image position can change as well. So in the past, we did have it default to the top right corner. You'll notice on this slide we've moved it to the left. So it's just a way to kind of give some more variation, some more customization for you to customize that specific slide for your employees. Now this field right here is the important part. Show on initial or refresher is how you can control whether or not this is a slide you want to appear on your initial course, the course that a new employee would take for the first time. You could have it show on the initial and the refresher, or you could say, I just want this to be a slide that is only shown on refresher courses. So when you make that designation, that will decide whether or not this slide is something that's shown initially and on the refresher, or both, or excuse me, or just the refresher. Now we've had this feature for quite some time. Michelle wanted me to cover this because she knows that many many clients have not been made fully known about it. You can have a minimum delay before an employee can click through. Some clients have complained saying, hey, my employees can just come in and click the continue button and be done with a 45-minute course in 3 minutes. Well, you can control that. So just know that on your slides you can actually say, I want them to at least be on this slide for 5 seconds, and that will actually delay them before they can just click to the next slide. The last thing I want to point out on here is this new field called print. Now print, one of the new features we're excited to announce that I'll be covering here in just a few minutes is where you can now print your policies and procedures and search them. If you want this information to appear in your policies and procedures, you want to say yes. If it's just, say for example, it's just some information, but it's not something you really want in your manual, or in this case your HIPAA privacy handbook, then you would want to change this to no. But if it is something you want your employees to be able to search through the new reference guide feature, then make sure you designate it yes. And like I said before, please don't worry about taking tons of notes on this. This is being recorded. If you forget anything, you can always reach out to your specialist. We know this is a lot of information, but we just want to at least cover it so we can show you what we've updated and enhanced.
Hey, Brian.
Yes.
I just wanted, we've gotten a question, and I think now is a good time to discuss it. The question is, up to now, if we wanted to update a current or original slide, we either had to amend and add that information to the bottom of the slide, or hide the slide and rebuild the new slide. So the question is, it would be nice if I could simply edit the original slide. Can you address that?
Yes, I can. And
Thank you.
So if you noticed, here we have the custom slide. So this is a slide that the client can create. They have full control over that, even to the point, as you can see, deleting it. Now, to basically kind of control the integrity of these courses that we're providing for you, unless it's a completely custom course we built from scratch, there's still some limitations that are in here. So for example, to address this client's question, oops, let me hit back here. If we come into the compliance officer slide, so this is where you're saying, hey, I really would like to customize this text in here. That is still the limitation, because one thing we don't want to do is say, well, if the government's telling you this is the policy, we don't want you to pretend to be the government and say something else. That's why we feel you're hiring HCP to handle this for you. That being said, this is still your policies and procedures. This is still your compliance program. So if you say, I just want it to still be different for training purposes, sure, go ahead and hide the slide, copy the content, come in and hit, create a new slide, and you can basically replace it. So I know where this client's coming from, but I guess he or she might not like that answer.
Thanks for addressing it, though. I think we have a lot of clients asking the same question.
And you know, we try to do as much as we can to allow the capability to customize existing slides, but to basically preserve the integrity, to make sure that you don't have somebody accidentally come in and say, oh, I just want to edit that, and forever now that new policy says that, when the government actually said, no, this is the policy. That's why we have some control that we want to maintain on our end. However, you will notice we do allow you to change the imagery, so you can change our images that show up here. You can also add an MP3 file. Now, we have had lots of clients say, hey, okay, so I can't change your text, but I would love if your employees have computers on their, speakers on their computers, I would love to just add a message here and say something maybe more explanatory to what the policy is provided by HCP. I want to actually voice narrate and put my own 2 cents in on that. So you do have the capability to put a voice narration file, an MP3 file on here.
And I might add that we have several clients who've used that MP3 opportunity to actually introduce the compliance officer. So they might come onto the training and just introduce that this is, you know, the training for your organization, and give you just a few tips before going into the training. So that's an option as well. Yeah.
Exactly. And if you need help knowing how to upload those MP3 files or have questions, again, just work with your client specialist. They'll be able to help you out.
Okay, Brian, we have one more question before you go on to the next section, if you don't mind.
Sure.
If the question is, if they have a new hire that's going to be taking the training for the first time, do they have to go back into their profile the next year to do only the refresher course?
So the answer to that question is they don't have to do anything. That's part of the technology. So once, both for new hires, if you had an employee that you created today, they're going to take the initial course. If you have an employee that took the course, that needs to take the course today that took it last year, they're going to get the refresher version. So even that new hire that you create today, come next year on their anniversary, they're going to get the refresher version if you have refreshers turned on.
Thank you.
Not a problem. Now up here you'll also see this is where you can get, if you remember the old print your policies and procedures down at the office level on the dashboard, we've actually removed that and we've put it right in the module. So if you ever want to just get that full print, in fact I'll click it here, this is, people that have tried to print this in the past, this is where you can pull it up and actually print the course slide by slide. It's got it all built in here. We've taken this a step further and actually enhanced the policy and procedure reference guide, though. As I come down in the office, I'll show you that. But you still can, for those people that liked the old printing capability, you still have it. It's just here at the module level. Now, one other thing Michelle wanted me to briefly cover is sections. You'll notice here that we've got a series of courses bundled under core compliance training. We've got some courses under adjunct compliance courses. We've got some self-developed courses. For some of you that have, you know, you've put a lot of time and effort into developing courses, or you know, maybe you just even have 10 courses in here and you'd like them to be organized for your employees when they take their training. You do now have the capability to bundle those trainings under sections. So you can come under sections, hit create new module section, and give them whatever title you want. We've had clients create sections such as clinical courses, compliance courses, human resources. So however you want to break those out, just know that you can now create sections, and to show you how to move those courses, you simply say if you wanted to move HR, you wanted to move it down into this section, you just click on it, drag it down, and now it's in that specific bundle of section, or that bundle of courses for that section. So that's available under Manage Sections under the Modules tab. We're now going to transition and move away from modules and go over to the Forms Manager. With Forms, we have done a few new enhancements on here. In the past, we've always given you unlimited storage space to upload as many forms for your employees as you'd like. We only had, however, one custom unique category called My Forms. Other than that, you were kind of restricted to our kind of preset categories of HIPAA, OSHA, HR, and so forth. What we've done now is we've allowed you to create your own new custom category and manage those categories to say where those categories are visible. So if I hit create new custom category, we could call this, for example, let's just say we want to call it sales. You know, maybe you want to create an office for your sales department. You can say which office this sales category it can be visible. Let's say we just want it to be visible in the Main Street office. So we'll deselect the others. Now you've got that new form category created so that when I come back into the Forms Manager, let's say this vendor BA form here, when I click on it, I can say, I don't want this to be in my forms anymore. I want this to be in the new sales category. And which office is it in? It's in Main Street. So then you can save it. So now you have the capability to not only create your own custom categories, but you can also say, are these categories visible for all offices, or are they just visible maybe for some select offices? So that's our new enhancements on the forms. We also have a new manager report. Under the Reminders Hub, many of you admins maybe love or hate when you receive the dreaded Office Admin Training Report. And I say sometimes hate because you get an email that looks like this. So it says hello and it has your name and you see all the employees who might not have completed their training. Now hopefully your practice is better than others and you don't get this report very often. But if so, we have made an enhancement where you can actually now, for some of the larger organizations, if you have multiple managers and you have employees designated to those managers, we have now what's called a manager's report. So you can see here we have an office manager training report, and that same admin training report that I just showed you, I'm going to show you it. I'm going to now show you how it functions under this manager report. So when we click here, you'll see there's 3 managers, and when we click the preview, we see that Eric Demo is getting an email with just these 2 employees. Brent Wiley, manager, is just getting 1 employee, and Brian Demo here is just getting 1 employee. So it's much more user-friendly. Managers are just being notified when their employees are not training, rather than getting a laundry list of maybe every other supervisor or manager's employees that aren't training. So this is a nice new feature for some of the larger organizations that maybe have been consolidating and saying, sorry, just look for your employees only. Now we can actually kind of split those up for your specific supervisors and managers. To actually designate those managers, what you do is from the Employees tab, either at the account level or the office level, you simply click on the employee and go to their profile, and then from their profile you can actually now designate their manager. So if Jim Brown's manager is Brian Demo, then you just click that name and save. Now that manager report for Brian Demo, Jim Brown's going to show up on that report. So we're excited about the new manager report. We also have created notifications. Now notifications, we all know that your employees are receiving email reminders to take training. We have had several requests of employees saying, hey, I took the training and they're still getting reminders, and they find out maybe they just didn't click that last slide, or they didn't say finish course, or whatever they forgot to do. Maybe their training timed out and they didn't know that it timed out. So what we have now with notifications here is by default, we've turned it on for just the employees. So if your employee finishes a course today, they will get an email notification saying, congratulations, you finished your fill in the blank. You finished your HIPAA privacy course. Thank you for completing this. It also has a little note saying your manager or supervisor has access to your certificate, so you don't need to print it and turn it in. It's available online for your supervisor. Now, if you don't want those employees to receive those kind of post email notifications saying that they finished a course, you can simply turn them off. But by default, we figured we would turn them on because we've had so many requests of employees saying, did I finish it? I don't know if I did. I think I did. We feel it's pretty self-explanatory already, but we've even made it more self-explanatory by saying, let's send them an email saying, thank you for finishing that course. You can also turn it on for the managers. I would I would not recommend doing that unless you really need the notification, because otherwise you're going to be, we already know how many emails you guys get. We don't want you to get emails saying, Susie employee finished her HIPAA training, and then what if she's taking 5 other trainings that day? You're going to get 5 more emails that day saying Susie employee finished this one. So by default, it's turned off for managers, but if you do want it turned on for managers, you can. We're now going to move on to business associates. The enhancements we've made with business associates is really calling out and alerting you to some areas of concern. Now, for those that are participating and have access to this business associate service, you'll see here in the past you've been able to create your BAs or your vendors. It doesn't have to be just business associates. You can upload the agreements, you can enter the expiration dates, and we also are monitoring them on the OIG's exclusion list. So if they appear on the exclusion list, we will tell you. So in here you can see this company, they're on the exclusion list, and so we're notifying you and alerting it here in red so you're aware that there's a problem. Now you can also see here if an agreement is expired, it's in red, so you'll want to take care of that as well. But just know that we've made these additional enhancements, and later on when I show you the new compliance report, I'll show you how that takes it even a step further and how we're proactively managing this for you in case you're too busy to log in. We're actually making sure you can visibly see this on your compliance report. Finally, down at the reporting tab, you still have your training on here. You can filter and run your trainings, but many clients have been saying, man, I would really like to know what trainings are assigned to my employees at the account level. I can see it down at the offices on the employees tab, but I can't see it up here. Why not? Well, we agreed with you and said to our development team, why not? So as you can see now, the gray boxes do appear at the account level on the reporting tab. So it's a feature that should have been there a long time ago, but we just want you to know you can now visibly see that.
So Brian, can you hear the cheering in the background?
I know Michelle has her own cheering going on for that because she has many clients that she manages that have been wanting that.
Yeah.
You'll also notice that we have made consolidated kind of the view because we know some clients have a lot of courses and sometimes it would get cut off here on the edge. So you can see that there's a next link here. So if you wanted to click next, you would see you'd see the next grouping of courses. Depending on how many you have assigned to your account. Then you can go back previous next. There's also a last or a first, and that will kind of do that. You can still filter and say, I just want to look at HIPAA privacy. You can just look at that course. You can still download all this information as well. Now we're going to kind of switch gears. I'm going to move down to the office level.
Before you go there, Brian, I'm
Sure.
sorry to interrupt you. Can you just go back to the account for just one moment? We just received a question about the OIG exclusion list tab.
Sure.
And the question was, in regards to OIG, is there a way that HCP can run it for an organization on a monthly basis?
Great question. That's the service. So we know there might be some people on the call that aren't participating in this. We do have a little special offer here at the end of this call for everyone. But yes, HCP does monitor the OIG's LEIE, the list of excluded individuals and entities. We monitor that monthly. We email you, which we set up here so you can actually designate who you want to receive that email monthly, and we actually store it. So you have a chronological history each month of what that report looks like. So you don't even have to keep it in your email. We keep it here for you. Now this is an example of what that email looks like. It has an explanation here. It shows you if there's any exclusion matches, both on your entities, so those are your business associates, and on your employees. And if there is one, which we have here an example, Elizabeth Betty, so she's on the OIG's list, then we give you instructions on what to do next. Sometimes, just so everyone knows, the information we're pulling off of is the date of birth. We're not holding Social Security information in here. So sometimes this could be a mismatch. This could be a different Elizabeth Betty. You don't have the rogue one, the rogue employee. You just have someone that happens to have the same date of birth as the rogue Elizabeth Betty. If that's the case, your compliance specialist can help you, or we have instructions on here how you can ignore them. So you can see we actually put Elizabeth Betty in here. I could say please ignore her. And now there's an exception added to that. If I ever wanted to turn that off, I could come back in here and say, please release Elizabeth Betty. Now it's going to keep checking Elizabeth against the list. So if there are people, clients on the call that want more information on this, please reach out to your compliance specialist. But that's the long answer to yes, we can monitor that monthly.
Thank you so much.
So moving down to the office level, there's a couple things we want to cover here. As I mentioned before, we have removed printer policies and procedures. So for those people that are worried, that love to print, remember that's at the module level now. So at the when you click on a module, if we come here to modules, you just click on a course, you can print still. Okay, so you can print that same view. However, we've got something even more exciting that we want to show you. So if we come back into the office, rather than printing from the dashboard, now you simply just go to your reference guides. If you come to reference guides, we still have our regular reference guides. This is basically the letter of the law in detail. Okay, over here on the right, these are your policies and procedures. So that HIPAA privacy course we were just looking at, if I click on it, it opens it up and you have a table of contents. You can say, hey, I need to come to patient authorization. It's going to come down to patient authorization. You can print it. So if you want to say click print, this is the better printed view that we like now rather than the other, because the other kind of did, each page was a specific policy. Here we've consolidated it so you don't have to, if you chose to print this off, you wouldn't have to, you know, put 500 sheets in your printer to print it. Now we've actually kind of consolidated so you can have all the policies and procedures built in here. So here's the new capability to print. More importantly, this is where we hope you get excited for your employees to know what their policies are. You have this search bar. So let's just say hypothetically you have a breach, or an employee wants to know, hey, I know I took the training, but what do I do if I have a breach? Well, come into the reference guide and just search breach. If I can, let me pull this up here. Let me go notification. So as you can see, if you try to keyword search one part of a word, you're going to start to get that. Business associate. You're going to start to get every reference in your policies and procedures on business associate. When you click on it, it hyperlinks over to that part of your policies and procedures. So this is something we're really excited about. We know you can't retain all of this information. If we came into the OSHA course and you had a needle stick injury and you're saying, what was our policy on needle sticks? You can just keyword needle stick, and it's gonna pull up that specific search. It's gonna pull up that specific search in your policies and procedures on that specific issue. So we're excited that now your employees can access the information in their policies and procedures better than they have in the past. More importantly, because they're taking a refresher version of the course, this is how they can still access your policies and procedures. That was a fear. People said, well, hey, we want a shorter course, but we also want the employees to still know what their policies are. Well, here's how they can get the best of both worlds. They can take shorter training, plus they can still access all of your policies and procedures in your course. Coming back up here onto the Employees tab, there's something we need to show you. You'll notice at the office level from employees, just like on the reporting, you do now have the capability to just see 5 default courses, and if you need to see more, just know you have that next link here to see more. This also was created again for some people that had too many courses and some of them were getting cut off and they couldn't see them all and they were wondering if they were there. We have now added that next link for them to see that to kind of progress and move over to those additional courses. Lastly, we want to quickly cover the compliance report. So all of our clients, one service we like to offer them is to send out a semi-annual report, kind of telling them where they stand with their compliance program they've purchased from Healthcare Compliance Pros. Over the years, we've continued to enhance this. We've tried to make it more user-friendly. We've tried to really point out and designate the the areas of concern, so that you can just quickly say, here's what I need to address, and then move on to your other tasks that you have to deal with. What we've done just in the past couple months with the report, you still have your training section to say where your employees stand, are they training, but we've now added this new compliance management section. And what really excites us about this is really going to tell you if your organization is compliant or not. If you need to go to your board of directors, or you need to go to your senior doctor on staff, or you just need to tell your compliance committee, are we compliant? What are we doing? What are we not doing? This report is what you guys want to be having that conversation around. You can see under here it asks things like, are HIPAA breaches being logged? It says yes or no, and then it says how many there are. Are the safety data sheets uploaded and up to date? Yes, and how many of them are there? Are your BAs and vendors uploaded? Are the BA agreements uploaded? If there are some that are missing, it will say which ones are missing, and the report will also tell you, these are the ones you need to address. Please make sure you update those. Along with BAs, it also tells you if there are any agreements that are expired. If you remember before, we had that one that was missing a date. This report's where it's going to do the work for you. It'll actually show you which one's missing. And then along with the business associates, the OIG monitoring. Are all employees being monitored? If it says no, there will be an explanation telling you why. That's probably because there may have been an employee that was added that you forgot to add the date of birth. If we don't have the date of birth, we don't have a way to monitor them. And then, are there any exclusions found? In this example, remember we had the 2, so this report will tell you which 2 there are. So a lot of new enhancements on here. Again, the hope we want to have for you is that we take away this burden, make your life easier. I know that these enhancements are going to help you maintain a more compliant practice. We hope that your employees might actually enjoy taking their compliance training now, and that some of the more critical and important aspects of these regulatory areas are explained and understood more clearly. We do want you to know that we constantly strive to make our site and services better to help ease the burden and increase stress that we know many of you continue to face in healthcare, and we hope these changes do just that. Thank you.
Thank you, Brian. I just wanted to take a moment and thank Brian for being on today's call. I really appreciate his expertise on the website, and I'm really glad that he was able to help explain all of the new available features to all of you as participants on the webinar. Now, as you can see, we are not done yet. One thing our clients know is that we're always listening and improving your compliance experience. So our HIPAA refresher courses are now available. I also wanted you to know that we will be rolling out our OSHA refreshers in the second quarter of this year. And those will be rolled out along with some more enhancements for our administrators, as you can see on this slide. So please continue to watch for announcements on these updates. Of course, we'll have another webinar explaining the updates and the OSHA information. And right now, I'd just like to turn the time back over to Brian for just one last time. He kind of let the cat out of the bag a little bit. I believe he has a special announcement for you. So, Brian?
That's exactly right, Michelle. We do have a special offer because these are new. Some of these services are new, and we want everyone to have an opportunity to experience them. We are offering a limited trial of these services. Now, we know many of our existing clients have been participating in our online training and have had our custom policies and procedures, but for a limited time, we do want them to experience some of these other additional services that HCP offers. So this offer is for existing clients. There is an implementation of these services that are included, and just like that report that I showed a little bit earlier that covered things like, are you logging your breaches, are your business associates logged, and are their agreements uploaded and not expired, we're going to provide a free comprehensive compliance report at the end of the trial period for you. If you'd like to continue using the services, we'll also have the pricing for continuing to use those services. So please reach out. If you have any interest, reach out and contact your account representative. They'll have more information, and they can go ahead and get you scheduled if you'd like to participate in this limited offer. Michelle?
Wonderful. So as you were explaining that special offer, Brian, I had a couple of participants chime in, and one of them said, I subscribe to all of these services and I don't know how I survived without them. Just the security risk analysis is worth it. Thank you so much. So here's what we want you to come away with. These types of compliance webinars are held on a monthly basis, generally the second Thursday of every month at 1 p.m. Eastern, just like the one today. This week's webinar will be published in the Compliance Insider newsletter, and there will be a link, and you or other members of your office will be able to view it at your convenience. So I hope that answers that other question. Obviously, we've got our contact information here. If you have any additional questions that were not answered, I'm sure that we'd be happy to follow up with those after the webinar. So thanks again for participating.
Thanks, Michelle and Brian. And again, we'd like to thank you all for joining us today. The webinar was recorded. We will be publishing it in the newsletter and on the website. Make sure that you do stay with us to complete that survey at the end of the webinar. Once it closes out, it will pop right up, and that's where you can opt in for this special offer. And it also helps us provide the new compliance features and future training that you'd like to see. Thanks again for joining us, and have a great day.